Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Monday, March the 6th, and welcome to our commentary. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about a post that I have over at the American Thinker concerning Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland. And we'll get into that in a second. But I just want to remind you that we recorded a video with our friend George Rodriguez from South Texas. We've been doing that with George all year long, where once a week we talk about Texas politics. And on Sunday night, we recorded one. It's available here on this page, or you can also see it over at my blog. And we talked about some of the issues in Texas. The legislature, of course, underway, and school choice, one of the discussion points down at the legislature. We also talked a little bit about what's happening in Austin, Texas, and the fact that the governor may have to take over that city. That city is undergoing through a little chaos, and it's what happens when you defund the police and you don't support the police. What you get is more crime. Isn't that amazing? When you defund the police, you get more crime. That is, I don't know. I thought everybody knew that, but I guess the people of Austin, Texas are figuring that out. So you cut the police and the crime goes up. I don't know. It's I think everybody knew that, but I guess not the liberals who are running things down in Austin, Texas. So the governor may have to step in and take over the security of that city just for the protection of the citizens who are being exposed to all of this criminality down in Austin, Texas. What a sad story. Austin, Texas is one of the most beautiful cities in Texas. If you're familiar with the hill country and all those lakes, I mean, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world to go for a vacation or to go for a long weekend. And, you have to have this stupid crime brought to you by a city government that doesn't seem to have its act together. So we hope, if necessary, that the governor steps in and at least does away with all of this crazy criminal behavior that is certainly affecting the citizens who live there. Many of them have talked to me how dangerous parts of the city have become because, again, the city government has decided that they're going to defund the police. Well, that's what they're saying, and that's the kind of chaos that they are getting. I have a post over at the American Thinker about Governor Larry Hogan, who just recently left the governorship of Maryland. He was a Republican who was elected and reelected. It's really tough for a Republican to win in Maryland, particularly for governor, but he did. And he did a pretty decent job running that state. The problem is that he couldn't really address the major problems in the state because the major problems are in the city of Baltimore, a city that unfortunately is having to deal with a lot of crime, with a public school system that is a disaster. You may have heard statistics that something like 23 public schools in the Baltimore school district, the kids are graduating, they cannot even do math at the level that they're graduating. So, nevertheless, it's very difficult for a Republican governor to do anything about it because the partisan Democrat legislature will not make changes, and they're simply not going to go against the teachers union in the city of Baltimore and at least try to give the kids a chance to go to a decent school by giving the parents a voucher or whatever to take them out of many of those problematic schools. So the governor did his best. I think Governor Hogan did his best, but unfortunately, it's not going to matter much in Maryland because, again, the very partisan Democrat majority would not allow him to do anything of reform, either in crime or when it came to the public schools. So he's not going to be running for president, according to his statement. He says he's not going to be joining. I think many people are explaining it along the lines that he doesn't want to get in and create a situation similar to 2016, where it seemed like everybody was running for president. You had 20 or 30 people running. And if you may remember, they had like 2 or 3 debates because there were so many people running, they couldn't put them on a stage. So they had Group A and Group B. He's trying to prevent that. His argument, although he hasn't said this publicly, but many people believe that he's trying to force President Trump to win the primary with more than 30 or 35% of the popular vote, which is what happened the last time around. The problem with the Republican primary is that the winner takes all the delegates. So if you get 35% of the vote, you get 100% of the delegates, which is the reason that Donald Trump was able to close the deal in 2016 as rapidly as he did, even though he was getting, as I say, 30, 35% of the popular vote. But nevertheless, I think Governor Hogan is thinking, if I don't get in, then President Trump won't be able to get in simply by winning, between 10 people or whatever. Honestly, I don't think Larry Hogan would have made any difference because I just don't think he would have survived too many primaries. He's not a very strong candidate. He doesn't have a big presence in the party, and I don't think he really offers anything. He's not a man with a lot of new ideas. So I wish him well, but I don't think that he's somebody that we're going to be talking to. Now, there's always the possibility that he could be a vice president, but there again, I think that's a very long shot because I think there are others who are far more popular with the base who would be a better candidate for vice president. So I think that's it for Larry Hogan, at least for the time being. We wish him well. And my only regret is that Governor Hogan didn't run for the Senate in 2022. I think he would have given the Democrats a good shot at, or at least a fight in that Senate seat. The Democrats won that seat rather easily, but I think if Governor Hogan, had run for that seat, I think it would have been a tougher match. I'm not saying he would have won, but I think it would have been a much tougher match. It would have given the Republicans at least a chance to pick up a seat that obviously they normally don't have a chance to pick up. So we wish Hogan well, but I think that's the end of the story for him. Did you see Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia over the weekend? They asked him, "Are you going to support President Biden?" And he said, well, no, he hasn't made up his mind or said it's too early to make endorsements. And then when they were asking him about his own political future, he said he'll make a decision at the end of the year. Now, there is some talk that Joe Manchin could run for president and challenge Joe Biden from the right, being one of the old, traditional Democrats, more of the old style Democrats that could challenge Joe Biden from the right. I'm sure he could do that. I don't think it's going to work again because Joe Manchin is so out of touch with the mainstream of the Democrat Party that it amazes me that he's still a Democrat. But I guess he is. He does face a very tough reelection campaign in West Virginia. He was elected the last time, or reelected the last time, with like 48% of the vote in a three-way race. So he's going to be facing a much tougher reelection this time around. I think you have to say his odds of being reelected in West Virginia are probably less than 50%, unless there's a third party, which is what happened the last time. So his chances of running for president, I don't know. If Joe Manchin was asking my opinion, I would say you should go independent. Drop the Democrats and go independent, and just vote your opinions, or vote for what you believe, and represent the people of West Virginia as best you can. Because as a Democrat, he doesn't fit in the party. And ever since he made the Inflation Reduction Act possible, remember, it was Joe Manchin's vote that made that possible. Without Joe Manchin, that would have never happened. The Inflation Reduction Act passed because of Joe Manchin's vote. Ever since he did that, he's lost a lot of appeal in West Virginia. He's way down in West Virginia. Now, Senator Manchin will tell you that was supposed to be an energy growth type bill, that the idea of that bill was to enhance energy production. That may have been what they told him, but that has not been the consequence of the Inflation Reduction Act, and it certainly has not reduced inflation. So he's in a tough position back in West Virginia. My guess is that he's not going to run for re-election. That's just a guess, because I just don't see how he can win. I just don't see how he can win. Again, the only way he can win, as he did the last time, would be to have a third party candidate in the race, and then he can get in with 48%, of the vote. But I don't think that's going to happen this time. Plus, he's facing more than likely his opponent is going to be a very popular governor of West Virginia right now, who I think would beat him one-on-one in West Virginia. A lot of talk in the media about COVID and where the COVID came from. Look, I think there are a lot of people in the media who I think, because they wanted to go against Donald Trump, President Trump, they were not willing to look at the possibility that maybe it did come from a lab. But I think a lot of media people need to be looking at their reporting, because the American people were basically shut down. If anybody had said anything about this COVID coming from a lab, you were immediately shut down, you were canceled. And now it turns out that maybe it did come from a lab. So I think there's just a lot of people out there who need to step back a little bit, and somebody needs to apologize to President Trump, not just because of Russia and everything they said about Russia, but because of this. Because when President Trump said that it came from a lab, he was called a lot of names. I'm sure you've seen the video. He was called a racist and everything else. It turned out that President Trump was correct. It did come from a lab. And I think a lot of people have a lot of explaining to do. And I hope they start explaining it. People don't trust the media anymore. The trust in the media is way down. And stuff like this is exactly why. I want to say happy number 84 as I leave you today to Cookie Rojas. He was a great Cuban baseball player back in the 60s and 70s that I grew up watching. I had his baseball card. Cookie Rojas. He played with Philadelphia, and he also played with Kansas City. Very popular player, very good player. He was a second baseman. And for years, in the early days of the Kansas City Royals franchise, when they were an expansion team and didn't have anybody of consequence on that team, it was Cookie Rojas who kept going to the All-Star game representing Kansas City, because he was the only player that they had. But great guy. He's still around, still does interviews. His son, Victor, is a baseball broadcaster, and a very good one. So happy number 84 to Cookie Rojas. And I bet I still have his baseball card in that box that my brother has been saving all of these years. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.